By the way, Judge.
Okay, the viewers coming in.
They're from earlier. If you want to look at them.
Okay, you may be seated. Terrence County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. The court is in session and calls number M329948. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr. Let the record reflect that Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr. is now present in the courtroom with his attorney John West. The state is present with Assistant District Attorneys, Attorney Kobe Hoffpower, and Attorney Lamar Johnson. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. State, are you ready?
Thanks, Judge.
Defense, are you ready?
Ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Harrison, will you please stand? And Mr. Hoffpower, would you please read the information?
Yes, Your Honor. Please, the court, counsel. State of Texas versus Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr. Information in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas comes now the undersigned Assistant Criminal District Attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas, and presents in and to the County Court at Law of Jefferson County, Texas, that in Jefferson County, Texas, Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr., hereinafter styled the defendant, heretofore on or about February 14th, 2021, did then and there intentionally obstruct and prevent Roger Williams from effecting the transportation of the defendant by using force against Roger Williams, a peace officer, and the defendant knew that Roger Williams was a peace officer against the peace and dignity of the state, signed by Assistant Criminal District Attorney.
Mr. Harrison, how do you plead?
Yes.
Okay,
Not good, I'm sorry.
okay. Okay, Mr. Harrison, you may be seated. And Mr. Hoffpower, Mr. Hoffpower, would you like to make an opening statement?
Switches over.
Okay,
Thanks.
Mr. Yeah. Yeah, I need to change that and put it on that screen. Okay. Yes,
Thank you.
Ms. Hoffmeyer, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, thank y'all for coming back. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about the things we talked about in Board I. Okay, I'm gonna go back over the elements of it. I'm gonna be quick. I'm gonna give you a quick summary of what we think the evidence will prove. That's what we do in opening statements. Okay, remember, this is State of Texas versus Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr. Okay, this is, excuse me. Gotta turn on. Now, resisting arrest, search, or transport. Okay. The elements I gotta prove is the state, once again, that's my job. Each and every one of those elements have to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, it's only me, it never switches, all right? So each one of these elements has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. Now, the defendant, Herbert Glenn Harrison, on or about February 14th, 2021, this is restating what the elements are in the information I just read. Okay, I just breaking it down into bullet points. Okay, in Jefferson County, Texas, did intentionally prevent and or obstruct Roger Williams, who the defendant knew to be a peace officer, from affecting the transport of the defendant by using force against Roger Williams. All right, now we talked about prevent or obstruct. I gave you some definitions. All right, we'll go quickly over those. Prevent, to stop something or keep it from occurring. Use your common sense as well. Prevent. Okay, obstruct. Obstruct is to make progress or activity difficult. Okay, to obstruct it, to stop it. Right now, in this case, this charge is arrest, search, or transport. Any one of those three. Now, obviously, you read and I read in the information. This is about a transport. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the third one of these. Okay, transport was highlighted. An act or process of transporting individuals in custody by law enforcement personnel, such as a suspect, a detainee, or an inmate. Okay, or someone arrested. Now, transport is that That's it. Okay. Now, use of force. We've told you we went over some examples of that. Use of force, Texas courts have said any amount of physical force is sufficient for the charge of resisting arrest, search or transport. Okay. Now, witnesses I'm going to give you today, it's not going to take long. There's 2 witnesses, 2 officers. Okay. And we're going to give you video. You're going to have both videos from both officers, both their in-cars and their body cameras. Everything you're going to need to know for this case is going to be on video. We're going to have them testify, but you're going to be able to take the video back and watch it if you need it. All right. But everything you need to know and every one of those elements that I just put up there is going to be met by watching this video. It's just on the video. There's nothing to it. You look at watch the video, it'll be sufficient. The state believes the evidence will show it. Now, video is both body cam and in-car. Okay. I'm submitting to you that the body cams are what we're going to be focused on mostly, but the in-car will be admitted to. Okay. Now, testimony through these officers. We believe the evidence will show it's on February 14, 2021. It's approximately 2:23 a.m. Okay. That's into Sunday night. Okay. This is at 501 Washington Boulevard. That's on the corner of Washington Boulevard and MLK Parkway in Beaumont, Texas, Jefferson County, Texas. It's in the parking lot of the Speedy Stop, 7-Eleven at that corner. Okay. Now, the state believes evidence will show Officer Williams was dispatched because there was a person caused a disruption, trespassing, and he was badgering customers. Okay. Comes from a clerk at 7-Eleven. Now, when he gets there, they give a description of a black male near a white Camry automobile, trespassing and bothering customers, like we said. Now, Officer Williams is dispatched there. He's on duty. He observed a black male matching the description and inside a white Camry. And matches the description, approaches. When he approaches, he asks the subject to exit the vehicle. Subject acts like he can't hear him. There's a miscommunication. Can't get there. So he asked him to walk towards his patrol car. Finally, he gets him out of the car. Now, he observed the subject was unsteady on his feet, that he was slurring his speech, that he was smelled from his person an odor of alcohol, all signs of potentially intoxication. Now, through his training and experience, he initially detained the suspect, normal, to further investigation, detained him. At that point, we believe the evidence will show that he conducted a pat-down search. He placed him in handcuffs and he went to take him to put him in his patrol car. Now, we believe the evidence will show at the time, due to the behavior of the suspect and the clues that he observed, Mr. Williams made the decision to arrest him for public intoxication. Okay, that is something where somebody's taken into custody for a Class C misdemeanor, but a public intoxication. Okay, now at that time, it's an arrest. He's trying to transport it. Okay, he and Officer Salcedo, which you'll hear from today as well, came in to help him. Okay, they could not get the defendant in this particular case, who's later identified. He wouldn't give his name until they finally found out through searching the car that he wasn't going to go anywhere. And he kept his leg out the car and wouldn't allow the officers to close the door. Now, that is important for this particular case, is because officers are required to transport in a safe manner. They don't get to pull off with a person with their leg hanging off the door. So if they're not going to comply with that, then they have to try to do it. And if they use force in that and not going, that's resisting transport. All of this stuff we believe is going to be clear from the video, and you're going to hear from the officer's testimony. Okay. Now, but it doesn't end there. We believe that it will show multiple times they try to get the defendant in this case, Mr. Harrison, into the car so they can close the door. He would not comply. He continued. He was belligerent. He continued to talk and try to get the answer to a question that they hadn't answered multiple times. He has to go the other way, and then he wouldn't put his head in the car to close the door. They tried multiple times to get it to officers until they had to go to what they had in their training is to call another officer to bring what we call a rap device and let them talk to you about it and explain that. But that is a device that limits a person from being able to move so that it would be an unsafe transport. Okay. And that's only pulled out on rare occasions, but they thought they were going to have to bring it out in this case, and they did. Okay. All due to the fact that the defendant used force against both of these officers of his transport. Now, we all believe that the evidence will show he ultimately had to deploy the wrap to secure the defendant and put him in the car. This takes 20 minutes. Get a person who is detained and arrested for public intoxication. Now, when they placed him in the wrap, now all of these evidence, I'm gonna go over the elements again. I'm gonna read every one of these elements, and all of them are gonna be on the video for you to see with your own eyes. And you're gonna hear testimony from the officers that were there and had the body there. We believe at the close of this case, there'll be plenty of evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each and every one of those elements. Look forward to presenting it to you. Thank you very much.
Mr. West,
Yes, sir.
you may proceed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being back today. Yesterday we were kind of lighthearted in board hour and we kind of, joked around a little bit, and that's kind of get people to open up a little bit, drop their guards, talk to us and make everybody more comfortable. Today we get to the serious part. Okay, now we're all serious. Okay, this is somebody's life, freedom, etc. that we're talking about here today. And this is not a felony. We're not in a felony court. This is misdemeanor, but it's still serious to everybody that's involved. Okay. And Mr. Power is right. There's gonna be videos, there's gonna be some testimony. And it's one of those complicated trials in the sense that you're gonna see what happened, and then you have to apply it to the law the judge gives you. And that's where this case is gonna turn to. And I'm gonna remind you to remember the burdens we talked about, the different levels, okay? And we're gonna have to get that beyond reasonable doubt that it fits exactly what the code says it's supposed to be, the use of force, etc., all those kind of things. Okay, because I think the facts are gonna be pretty undisputed, but I think it's gonna be the interpretation of how you interpret what has happened out there. Does it fit the law according to the state of Texas? And I look forward to presenting it to you. And I think at the end of this, you're going to determine that his actions, you might not agree with them, but they might not rise to the level of being resisting transportation. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffmeyer, you'd like to call you first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State Officer Roger Williams.
Roderick Williams.
Yes, sir.
Officer Williams, would
Yes,
you
sir.
please raise your right hand? Officer Williams, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
You may take the witness stand. Mr. Hoffmeyer, you may proceed.
Thank you, sir. Please, court counsel. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Robert Williams.
Okay, Mr. Williams, are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been certified?
3 years and I think 4 months.
Okay, and as a certified peace officer, you had to go to school or to the academy, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Where did you go to the academy?
So likely.
Okay, and Lamar Institute of Technology. And have you only worked at Beaumont PD since that, or have you had other jobs in law?
I've worked for parole for 5 years, TCJ parole, and then 7 years at Jefferson County Adult Probation.
Okay. And then you've been a peace officer for only at Beaumont PD
Yes, sir, for 4 years.
for 4 years. Now, currently, what is your rank? What is your
Patrol.
patrol and just a patrol officer?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Now, do you wear a uniform while you're conducting your duties on patrol?
Yes, sir.
Is it similar to the one you're wearing here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is that standard Beaumont PD uniform that you're required to wear if you're on patrol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what currently are your duties?
We patrol, answer calls, go through the neighborhood, check on disturbances, alarms, things of that nature.
Okay, and y'all work at shifts.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many shifts does Beaumont PD have on a 24-hour?
For patrol, we have 4.
Okay, 4 of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so y'all come on as staggered.
Yes,
Is that fair to say?
yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what are your? Do you switch between shifts?
No, at the end of the year, you pick your shift, and for my shift, I work midnights, which
Okay.
is 9 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Okay. So that now, as an officer, and you've been doing it almost 4 years, right? That's a busy time when it comes to crime.
Yes, sir.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so you do a lot of work as opposed to working 3 in the afternoon.
Honestly, the afternoon's pretty busy too.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
okay. Now, in regards to being a certified peace officer in Beaumont, were you working on the night of February 14th, 2021?
yes, sir.
Okay, and so is that the 13th into the 14th? Like, I mean, near midnight? Just switches over?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is that the fourth shift? Or
It's first watch.
it's first watch?
Yes, sir.
Is that the one you're currently on now?
Yes,
Okay, so it's a normal time you would have come on at 9
yes,
and you would have worked into the morning.
yes.
Now, around approximately, well, first of all, were you wearing a uniform similar to the one you're wearing here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what time did you come on that night?
9.
Okay.
9.
Do you work alone or do you have a partner?
We have different, basically partners that work in our same area,
Okay,
but I was riding by myself that night.
okay, and was that normal for you back in 2021?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what area were you patrolling?
I work in the south end.
Okay, and that's the south end of Beaumont,
Yes, sir.
correct? And that's Beaumont, Texas,
Yes, sir.
and that's in Jefferson County, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, approximately around 2 to 2:20 a.m., did you receive a dispatch to 501 Washington Boulevard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you tell me where you were when you received that dispatch, or you can remember?
I don't know my exact whereabouts, but I normally patrol the beat that I work, which is 3A, which would be from MLK in College to maybe around Pitkin and MLK, all the way down to maybe Avenue F, Avenue G, around about there in Washington area to College, from the avenues to College, back to MLK. So it's kind of broken off in a block almost.
Okay. One second. Member Rocha.
Yes, ma'am.
Mark, I'm showing you what's been previously marked is at State's exhibits 1 through 5. We take a look at these phone calls. Okay, you just look at them.
Yes.
You've seen those before.
Yes.
Okay, those are satellite images from Google Earth. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with what it's showing?
Yes.
In regards to that? I mean, it starts out as State's exhibit 1 from a satellite view of Beaumont and down to the address we're talking, 501 Washington. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, does that fairly and accurately represent the place we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
And with that age in your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to consider these opposed to counsel your honor, and barring any objection, I ask that you take 1 through 5.
No objection. I've got it.
Okay. No objection. States exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be admitted.
Judge, permission to publish, I have them on a slide.
Okay, you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, I'm going to show you, and you can turn around and see it. Also. Now, that's a large satellite image of Jefferson County, eastern side, but Beaumont in the middle. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And even on that one, it
Mr.
got 5.
Hawkfire, there's a pointer right there if he needs it.
I was just saying, you see this pointer right there? If you would, and I'm going to go to the state's exhibit number 2. Is this the area we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
And when you were explaining your area of patrol,
Mhm.
if you could briefly show what area is that in the south? Is that the south end of Beaumont?
Yes, sir. It's the south end. If you go back to the first image.
Okay,
So this is 501. I don't know if you can zoom in, but that's MLK right there. And it'll be a few of these streets, and then it'll block off and come back this way. That's Washington Boulevard. And then this may be 4th Street, I can't tell though. But it doesn't go all the way down to 4th. It'll stop maybe around like Avenue H, and it'll go maybe Avenue I, but it'll go back this way towards College Street. Once you get to College, it'll block off like that. And then that'll be the beat out
On February 14th,
yes, sir.
2021. Now, that's what we call the south end.
Yeah, that's just a portion of it, because it's even south is even bigger than it.
It's bigger
But
than
that's
that.
just the beat where the incident occurred and where I was dispatched.
Okay. I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit 3. That's a little closer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But it doesn't include all of your beat.
No.
Okay. And then ultimately, this is like right on top of 501 Washington and MLK Parkway. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And could you point to us what business is there?
This is the 501 Washington, which is the Speedy Stop, 7-Eleven.
Okay, is that like a gas station?
Yes, sir.
And there's a street view of that gas station.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is where you were dispatched to on February 21st.
Yes, sir.
No, excuse me, February 14th, 2021.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was the nature of the dispatch?
Trespassing call involving blackmail by a white Camry that was intoxicated and harassing customers.
Now, through your training in your 3.5 years, do you get calls similar to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's not an unusual.
It's not.
Okay. And what about at that location? Have you been to that location before?
Yes, sir, several times.
Okay, and if you're familiar with it?
Yes, sir.
All right, and how long, if you can remember, and I know it's been 2 years, but can you remember how long it took you to get there? Once you got this done?
It wasn't a long period of time. It was fairly quick because like I said, I normally stay in my area. I don't venture out. So the average on my calls when I'm in my beat is maybe like 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay, so once you got there, what did you observe?
I observed a white Camry. Like this image right here.
Okay.
This is basically how the car was parked whenever I pulled in. I came off the street, pulled in, cut my lights on, and observed the Camry right in front of the store.
And did that match the description of
Yes, sir.
what you had from dispatch?
Yes,
So
sir.
once you observed that, what did you do?
I stepped out the car, approached the vehicle, and the vehicle did a jerk move. But considering the fact that the call came in as an intoxicated subject, I directed the driver to step out of the vehicle.
And is that standard protocol?
Yes, sir.
That which you've done before on occasions on a call like that?
Yes, sir.
May I approach Ms. Jones?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing the officer, what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 6. Okay, are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is it?
It's a flash drive.
Okay, is that flash drive something that y'all place your in-car and body cam videos on, like for a shift or for an incident?
For evidence, yes, sir.
Okay, and that's something that is sent to the DA's office.
Right.
Now, the images that are on, you've watched what's on
Yes,
this,
sir.
and that's your body cam, also your in-car video, which has 3 views,
Yes, sir.
right? Would you explain to the jury how your in-car is designed? I mean, your video works.
Our body cams sync with the vehicle. When we go into shift, we'll log on, we'll dock our body cams, we'll let them sync up. And then anytime we activate our lights, it'll activate our in-car camera, and it'll activate our body cam. So that way they'll kind of run in sync. And then whenever we shut them off, we'll log it with our case number and move on if it's a case number that's needed.
Now, in this particular case, and you were familiar with your system, is that right? And you're a competent operator of it, you were trained to do this.
Yeah.
And you had your body cam on, also your in-car video on. And throughout this incident, we'll call it this time, they were running.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right? And you reviewed this video,
Yes, sir.
and you were the one operator of the camera,
Yes,
and
sir.
it was in the system. And y'all place it on on a zip drive like this, and you reviewed it,
Yes, sir.
correct? And has it been altered in any way from what you remember?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time, Your Honor, I'm gonna offer safety exhibit number 6. The defense counsel will bar any objection has to be admitted for all purposes.
No objection.
Okay, no objection, states exhibit number 6 is admitted.
Now, Judge, at this time, we're gonna ask to publish State's Exhibit 6 as with your testimony with this witness. Someone, if you need a second to set.
Okay, that's
the
fine.
Speakers.
Mr. Johnson.
We might need the lights. Judge.
Cut that call. Cut that call. Cut the call. Open the door. Get out the car. 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 The door don't open. Get out that way.
Officer Williams,
Yes, sir.
at this time, you got the dispatch with a description.
Right.
And then you walked up on this Camry, which matched the description, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And a black male was in the driver's seat.
Yes, sir.
Now, was that vehicle on?
Yes, sir. It was on and his foot was on the brake.
Okay, so, and for our purposes, at least, he was operating a motor vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, while you're there, what's your job once you see what you know about it at this point? What is your duty as a police officer at that point? What do you?
First
What to
thing
do?
I thought about was public safety because they stated that he was intoxicated. So I wanted to get the vehicle either off or in park and him out of the vehicle. That way he didn't have a risk of driving off and possibly doing any type of harm to others on the road.
Now, there was another officer that came into the camera. Who was that?
That was Officer Sauceda.
Now, was she on the same shift in the same area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're familiar with her and you work with her?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what's her job? She's a secondary, is that fair to say?
Yes, sir. She'll, like, if she's coming in secondary, then she'll assist me. Like, for example, when you see her start to walk towards the other side of the vehicle while I was on the driver's side, that way she could assist, try to get him out of the vehicle.
Now, at that point, did the suspect or the person that was in this Camry, were they complying with what you asked them to do?
As far as initially getting out, no, because I don't know, because the door couldn't open, so I chalk it up to that. But once we told him to get out on the other side, he did comply.
Okay. Well, at this point.
Come on, Bill. All right. Walk to the front of my car. Walk to the front of my car. Walk to the front of my car. Put your hand right there. All right, back up. Keep your hand down and back up till I tell you to stop with your feet. Back up till I tell you to stop with your feet. Yeah, just like that. We're not doing you nothing. What was that? You're being detained. For what? Till I figure out what's going on with you. Cause we got a call. I'm finna leave. You ain't about to go home. What? How much you had?
Yeah, officer. Tell the jury why you did what you did in the video.
When he wasn't listening to simple commands to back up, walk towards the front of my vehicle. I detained him, informed him that he's just being detained till we figure out through further investigation what all had occurred. And that's also officer safety. That way, because the amount of alcohol I could smell coming off this person, I wanted to make sure he didn't decide to look or try and fight or something of that nature.
Now, is that sometimes, do they do that?
Yes,
And can you tell
yes.
if they're gonna do that? I mean, before.
Sometime if they begin to tense up whenever you're getting their arms or something like that, that can show signs of they're not really ready. Because anytime, from my experience and interactions I've had, anytime that I've talked to somebody while they're not in handcuffs, a lot of times they're cool. But if they're not following commands and I get ready to put them in handcuffs, that's when they tense up and decide they want to fight for whatever reason, I can't say. But just from my experience, just detain and let them know why they're detained. And then you can go from there and it'll be a lot safer for both parties.
Now, you said you smelled alcohol on it.
Yeah.
Is that right? Did you observe anything else about him? Like, was he unsteady or was he?
Whenever we ask him to get out the car, he gets out the car, tall individual, so, it was a little shaky. Tell him to walk, he's doing a little shuffle, and then you can hear from his speech that it was slurred. And the amount of alcohol I smelled from made me believe he was intoxicated.
Now, and you haven't made that decision at that time, right? But Those are some clues, is
Yeah.
that correct? Your training and your training experience, those are things you observe.
Yes,
Okay. Now, at this point, you placed him in handcuffs and you patted him down.
right.
Why did you pat him down?
To make sure he didn't have any weapons on.
Now, he's not an arrest, but he's detained.
He's just detained.
Okay. Did you eventually make the decision to place him under arrest?
Yes.
Now, was that after you detained him? Well, I mean, when, how does that come about? When did you like, through that, do you do a further investigation to determine?
Yes.
Okay.
So, whenever, I got into the front, I patted him down. I saw that he didn't have any, weapons on him, so I felt safe putting him in the back of my patrol unit. And at that point, you, like I said, you can, the speech, the walk, me assisting him and the strong odor of alcohol, I, placed him under arrest for PI, public intoxication.
Now, would you tell the jury, public intoxication, what is public intoxication?
When, you're intoxicated in public, when you have when you no longer have normal use of your faculties.
Now, driving while intoxicated is something different, right? But the intoxication, I mean, it's a misdemeanor, Class C misdemeanor to be
Right.
intoxicated in public.
And if his record is his first DWI, then that'd be he'll have a class, a higher offense.
Okay,
For
and
DWI.
but you hadn't made that decision.
I hadn't made that decision.
Now, in regards to somebody that you decide to make public intoxication, what did you know about this individual? Just from at this point, that if he was released, what'd he do? I mean, you can only, I mean, through your training and experience, but
And-
he's got a vehicle, right?
Right.
And he was trying to drive off at the time you stopped.
And I was trying to go by the videos from the stopping and pause moments. I didn't want to go too far ahead of it. But basically, from talking to him and not getting clear cut answers, even if I wanted to get him a ride, he wasn't coherent enough to give me any type of feedback. And like I said, I didn't want to jump too far ahead of the video. That way I could have explained it by those each steps. But yeah, if I would have decided not to PI him or charge him with a DWI, then like, hey man, you're free to go. But with nobody safe or responsible to release him to, that'll make him a risk to the community.
All right, thank you. Later.
Let's let it on through. One, you get intoxicated in public, stepping up. I was in my car. That's public, stepping up. What I'm saying, what? Get in the car. Get in the car. What are you saying for? Get in the car. What are you saying for, man? Sit down. You're under arrest, public intoxication. So what? Sit down. I didn't need nothing. Okay, but you need to know. That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Put your feet in. All right. I'm gonna go ahead. That's fine. You don't have my name? Okay, I know. So what your driver's like? So I was pumping my gas. Sit down. What? There you go. What they arrested me for? Public intoxication. For what? Public intoxication. I'm pumping my gas in my car. Okay. I didn't use your pump. I'm pumping my gas. I did. Bro, when I pulled up, you was inside your car doing. What? No. Okay. I'm saying, all right, that's who you boy. That's fine. I did nothing. That's fine. What happened? Oh, pumping my gas. What happened? That's fine. What happened? You tell me. Nothing. What I'm arrested for? Public intoxication. But I did nothing. You drunk in public, sir. I was pumping my gas. Hey, what's your name, sir? I was pumping my gas. What's your name? Listen. What is your name? No. I don't understand. You're under arrest for public intoxication. For what? Bro, I'm not about to public intoxication. I'm not gonna say it. What's my way? You told me I did nothing. What's the name? What's the name? What? Give me your name. I didn't do nothing. Hey, I'm not gonna keep going back and forth with you. Give me your name. You're lawfully detained and you're under arrest for public intoxication.
Wow,
Failure.
I didn't do that. Okay,
So
so what is the reason for you? What is the reason?
Listen, we got a call from the store.
No, I'm gonna sue you.
Listen,
I'll put my gas.
bro.
All right,
now,
I'm
let's
listening.
take this thing. Come
Well,
on.
I'm listening.
Give me your name.
But I'll put my
What's
gas.
your name?
So I said,
Give me your name.
what did I do?
Give me your name, sir.
What did I do?
What is your name?
What did I do?
You under arrest for public intoxication.
How? Why? Why?
I'm gonna run this play.
For what?
And I'm safe.
For what?
Put your leg in the court. Put your leg in the court. You got to get another toy.
I'm not doing nothing.
You got to get another toy. Put your leg in the court, you under arrest.
Arrest for what?
Public intoxication.
Now, officer,
Yes, sir.
how many times did he ask you what he was under arrest for?
I lost count
And how many times did he answer? Every time, right?
almost every time.
Okay, so at this point, there was a scuffle, right?
Yes, sir.
What was going on at that point?
When I got ready to close the door, he used his right leg to keep the door from closing.
Okay.
And that's when I pushed his leg inside of the vehicle, or attempted to, and he began to stiffen it where I couldn't even bend it to get him inside of the car.
And you could see it on video, you could see your leg out, right?
Yes.
And you trying to push, but it's,
He's pushing his leg back against me, not letting me put his leg inside of the vehicle.
okay, now, I want to be clear, like, you had, at this point, you couldn't find out, he wouldn't give you a name. You didn't know, you had to get it other way, you're not complying.
Right.
Now, did he use force against you from closing that door?
Yeah, each time I tried to close the door, he used his leg to push it open and not allow me to close it.
So it wouldn't close.
Right.
Now, tell the jury why it's important for the door to close. Or can you transport somebody with an open door and a leg hanging out?
For safety of myself and, the person I'm transporting, you would want both doors closed. You know,
Now, are you trained in regards to that as to whether or not you should leave if you still got a leg hanging out the door?
no, we wouldn't.
Now, did you try to make him comply after he wouldn't comply?
Yes,
How many times did y'all try? And the officer said was also there, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, and I just want to be clear, he's preventing you from transporting wherever you're going,
Right.
okay? And he's under arrest, so where would that be?
That'd be Jefferson County.
So in order for you to conduct your business as a police officer, right?
Right.
Is to transport him safely, and this person would not allow that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did he use force against you and the vehicle and Officer Salcedo, excuse me, to prevent y'all from going anywhere?
Yes,
I mean, in effect, leaving your foot out and not letting you close the door makes you do what?
resist.
Well, I mean, what does it make? You can't go
We
anywhere.
can't, we can't go
Y'all not gonna get in the car and transport him,
Right,
right? So at that point, he's resisting,
right.
right? And you tell him, like, you're resisting, stop resisting, right? Now, could y'all get him to comply?
No,
Okay, come on.
I was putting my gas. I didn't do that.
Bro. I'm back and forth.
I didn't do that.
Put your leg in the court.
I didn't do nothing.
You're about to get that route. You got the route.
I didn't do nothing.
Get in the car or you about to get wrapped in the car.
I'm sorry, okay? All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Put the leg in the car.
No,
Okay.
I
That's fine. Hey,
committed a crime.
public intoxication.
Wow, I was on my gas.
Put your leg on. Put your leg in.
How you figure about citation, bro? How you figure about citation? I didn't do nothing.
Bro, you drunk and fucking public.
No, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Didn't do nothing.
Yeah. Oh, you're a danger, huh? Okay, okay. Still going to jail, you still going to jail? You still going to jail? I'm going to for what? Public intoxication and transport. And resisting transport. How? You got to get both of them. How? I'm saying, yeah. Hey, get on my computer and run this. Yeah, you got to get all that. You won't beat these games, boy. That's fine. How you gonna beat these games? I don't do nothing. All me was car, was for what's this for? Make my ass. So what you arrest me for? You about to get arrested? For what? Public intoxication. I'm not gonna tell you no more. You didn't make that. Okay. When you come back to? Okay. Yeah, what's the name? What's the name? You'll sit with him, I'm gonna go check his phone for that.
All good. Can we still hear
Yes,
him? And you're 20 feet that way, right?
Right.
And he's still yelling the same thing he was asking you.
what did I do?
Okay. Now, as far as searching his vehicle, you said even on the video, is that correct? That like you're looking for his ID, he won't give his name.
Right.
Okay, now, how do you get a name if somebody's not gonna give it to you?
Other than checking to see, if we can locate his driver's license or a wallet or something with his name on it, fingerprint him at the jail, and then just charge him with another offense of failure to identify.
Okay, now, did you eventually find out who it was?
Yes,
Okay, who was it?
Herbert
Herbert
Harrison.
Harrison? Do you see Mr. Harrison here in court today?
Yes.
Would you point him out and describe him all?
Black male, blue shirt, braids.
That the worker reflected witnesses identify the offender Herbert Harrison, your own.
Let the record off. The record will slow reflect.
Hey, you're not about to be one of them reports. Hey, why? Race. You ain't got to talk to him about. Why? We got to practice essence. Yeah, it's recorded right now. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
to the gas pump, to get, I'm not talking, people pay for my gas. So, what? Yeah, everything will come, so what did you do? Why, there's a,
If you don't want you're not contained, you under arrest.
why I'm doing, what crime?
We already talked. Something that's our case.
Why is it get gas?
So we drunk in public.
Who is it?
You drunk in public.
No. Hey, let me take out.
Yeah, we got to do a president fight. And,
What is you talking about?
I get the, I'm gonna get the stuff started. I bet you, let you want to do it.
What?
I'm dragging them across the.
What? Now, I can't be that. I put. Yeah. What? I do it.
I'm gonna sign and look like, well,
Real quick, officer,
Yes, sir.
you said come on video, you said you were gonna go around.
Right.
Why were you doing that?
To pull him further inside the vehicle.
Okay, to transport him,
Yes,
is
sir.
that right? Is it fair to say he's preventing and obstructing both of y'all from getting him in the car?
Yes, sir.
Not just once, not just 3 times, more than that,
Yes, sir.
okay?
if there's one close, that we find, but if not, I'm just gonna try and reposition them inside the court.
On.
That's not how we like to do it, but right now. I'm gonna put them away.
I'm crazy for what? Crazy for what, man? I ain't doing that.
You're already going in for public interpretation, you're going in for resistance, you're going in for resistance transport.
Beautiful, man. Trying to get gas. Trying to get gas. What is that doing, bro?
No,
Also, the struggle, then would you explain to us what's going on in the back of your patrol unit?
Whenever I was pulling him across the seat to get his legs in, because he's pretty tall. So if he flattens himself out, like his head's hanging out and his feet hanging out the other side of the vehicle. So I'm trying to pull him from the other side so I could sit him up and maybe have his legs where you like an L basically. That way, we can close the door on both sides and we can try and transport him. But at that point, he stiffens up like a board and you can't bend his legs. So the door can't close and I'm holding him, his upper body because it's like a dead weight.
Now, at some point, the door closes on the other side, but could you close the left pass, back seat?
No,
Why not?
because he was hanging, out the backside. Because when we're trying to close the passenger side, door, he pretty much tried to kick it with his foot, which made him longer. And then whenever we was able to close that part, this part of the body was hanging out, the side out.
He's on the seat or was it down in the crevice?
He was on the seat at first, and then whenever he's straightened out, he slid towards the floor.
Okay, now, did he use force against you? You had him at the top of his head. He used his force to keep you from closing the door.
I couldn't even try and close the door at the point because I'm holding like all his upper body weight,
Okay,
trying to lift him up.
would he comply?
No,
Did he obstruct or prevent you from closing that door now?
yes,
So it went from one door to the other door, and now he wouldn't sit up to allow you to close the door.
right,
And he was using force against you.
right.
Okay.
What? You know, for what, man? Not doing nothing. Yeah. Look. See, I'm like, look, see, everything will get with y'all.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but it's doing this and that, and y'all will get time and soon everything, go. Really?
Yeah, we don't need that.
Y'all get so good. Okay, look, what? What?
Sit
What?
up, so you can get up,
Sit up what?
so I can sit you up.
Y'all, what is this?
You got to sit up like that.
No, you need
Sit up, you know?
what the money?
Break your leg back.
What y'all want me to
I'm
do?
gonna let you sit there.
I'm not gonna let you, man. Y'all did me like this here. What are you doing?
Let me know whenever.
What
Let me know when you want to sit up. Do you want to sit up?
the hell? You mean it, bro?
Do you want to sit up?
What did I do?
Do you want to sit up?
What did I do, man?
Do you want to sit up?
What did I do?
Let me,
What did I do, officer?
let me know when you want to sit up.
Let
Let me know when you want to sit up.
I'm saying, what did I do?
Do you want to sit on your butt? I'm gonna help you up.
You did me like this.
Do you want to sit up?
Shut up.
I'm gonna help you.
Shut up. You leave there. They do nothing.
All right, I'm gonna help you up.
I didn't. Oh. 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 Oh, man, come on. Wait a shit, all right? You want to shit now,
Sit on your butt.
yeah, I didn't.
Sit up. Use your legs and sit up.
How? What you want me to do? What you want me to do, bro?
Your butt.
You got it, you. Oh, I'm gonna your dog, bro. I'm gonna your dog, bro. Oh, the big one, thank God. I like that. I like that. You ain't do nothing. You do nothing. Oh, yeah. I'll put in the storage, you some gas. What kind?
So why did y'all pull him out of the vehicle?
We had a wrap on the way.
Okay, tell us what the wrap is.
Wrap is a restraint device that we use instead of a hobble. We still have the hobble, but we don't use it anymore because the wrap is to a degree more comfortable. And it basically sits you up in a L shape. That way we can slide you in the vehicle, have you restrained just in case you decide you want to fight or resist or be non-compliant. So we'll use a wrap device.
So when you said the wrap, that you're speaking about a device that you use.
Right.
Now, do you use that often, or is that something pulled up like last resort?
It's more of a, if we can get them to comply with whatever commands that we're given. And also, like I said, to keep them from being combative or resisting, we'll wrap them, which is a restraint, and it'll keep them in one position where we can transport.
And at this point, y'all tried everything you could without the wrap, right? And would he comply?
No,
The defendant would not comply with what you asked him, and he used force against you both
right,
to not let the car leave.
right.
Okay.
So,
Now, let me, wait.
All right, Judge.
you can go ahead.
Good.
Y'all out of there. Y'all out of there. What's that? Y'all out of there. Y'all out of there. Real. Right, look. Turn to the store, got to put some gas. You know, Camera was going there, right? Right, yes, sir. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Now, obviously, did you ever catch him?
Yeah, he was about to fall.
Okay, now, you're still trying to make sure he's safe, even though he's not complying, right?
Yes, sir.
So was he steady?
Sir,
Was he steady on his own feet, controlling?
no, sir.
Okay.
Ooh. See? Ooh. Ooh. What's your name? See, y'all fucked up. My name is Herbert Harrison. Herbert Lynn Harrison. Shoot, that's my name.
Herbert Lee Jr.
Herbert Lynn Harrison, man. See, I told you so to get some gas. Yeah, you fucked up, boy.
What's your birthday?
Nah, you fucked up.
What's your birthday?
What?
What's your birthday?
What? 7/20/83. My birthday, nigga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you fucked up, boy.
Like what, 30?
Nah, you fucked up, boy. You fucked up, nigga. Nah, I ain't doing this ass thing. Nah, okay, nigga. Yeah. You fucked up. And you too, miss. Yeah. See, you fucked up your whole career. For that fake V. So I ain't did nothing. Turn the store, got get some gas. Everything was recorded and the camera. Thank you. I really hate the camera shit. Nah. Put the camera shit now.
Yeah,
Me too. Me too. Yes, sir. Hey, can you put my shoe on, bro?
we'll get that in a minute.
Can you put my shoe on?
We'll get it in a minute.
Yeah, nigga. Cause I ain't got no drugs or nothing. See? Now you fuck. Okay, now. With that hitting that shit. You fuck, nigga. And you too. And you too. You fuck with that hitting that shit. Cause I ain't got nothing. Now, go tell you, go tell you, y'all fucked up. Yeah, it's okay. Why you doing that? Sir. Nah, homie. Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's sit right there.
Okay, I am, nigga. Nah, nigga. Nah. You fucked up, boy.
That's fine.
I know.
Dude, he about to fall.
I ain't doing nothing,
Okay. Hey, did you call for that time?
nigga.
Okay.
You out of here.
We can do it after, they get to the turn.
Hello, yeah. Boy, out of there. Everything got to, Thank you for the cameras. Thank you. Thank you for the cameras and recorder. Thank you, D.
And I'm gonna need a copy of all the jump off. But
With the what? With the
right hand.
further. Clear the skirt of the car. Yeah, I ain't for the yeah. Yeah, like, I know. What's up? I know. Yeah, folks, the wrong. Yeah. Huh. What's up?
You about to damn fall, dude?
No, come on. It's cold out here, nigga.
Okay.
Yeah, nigga. It's cold out here. What's my name, homie? Williams. Yeah, Williams. You out there, Williams. All right. Yeah, you out there, Williams. Well, you did me for nothing. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta stop saying it, guys. Yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, I feel. There you go.
Anytime. Come on. One way, one way.
Look to the right, look to the right, and bring it to the right. You got it? That's good? Yeah. There you go.
Oh, you boy. Go to where you AP2. Also, flow. Also,
Hold it again. We don't have to go out of here.
I learned the campus in noise. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, over the right. Yeah, for one song. I make more money than you. You keep money too. And my you. What you doing? Yeah, really, but I'm so fucked up. Hey, oh, what's that, home? What? Nice. Yeah.
I'm opening.
What? Yeah. Hang on. Hang on, yeah. Me? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm always you. Bill. What's up, man? Put it back.
Put it back on the way.
I'm well. Oh, this is what. Hey, everybody down. Let everybody down. All right. No.
Yeah, from that.
No, no. You booked up now. What? What? Okay, so lean forward, so you got the phones up now. Yeah, niggas. I know. Yeah, I know. You don't say one, huh? Yeah.
Super Saiyan, you feel the ball. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know. And I thought, oh, you want. Who did you?
No. Right,
Okay.
I'm telling you, I ain't drinking that nothing.
Officer, yes. What did it mean to you when he said you're out of there? He said it to both you and officer.
Well, I took it as, like, he was gonna sue and then get fired, that's how I took it.
Okay. And is that he kept saying that over and over.
Yeah, that's how I took it, slang.
Now, that didn't stop. Is that right? I mean, his actions, did he comply at that point and ride to the jail without saying anything or doing anything?
No, he talked, I think, the whole ride to
Okay. I'm gonna show you what, it's also on State Exhibit 6, but it's your in-car video in the back seat.
Yes,
Right. I'm gonna show you, for time, I'm gonna show you just pieces of it. But it's able to see the back seat and what we're explaining when he kept his leg out and then his head out. Okay, we're gonna skip through those. Okay.
yes.
Now, is that the rear of your patrol unit?
Yes, sir.
And that was also on February 14, 2021.
Yes, sir.
Let's skip ahead to it. Now, was it before this where he would let you close the door, the initial?
I can't see or really hear it, because I know whenever I went to his vehicle,
Yeah,
he was talking to Officer Salcedo.
okay.
So it could be that part, 'cause I heard her voice. Yeah,
Now, at this point,
yeah, that's him pushing, on the door while we're trying to close the door, then I pull him some more.
so prior to that, he used his leg to keep you from transporting that, is that correct?
Right.
And at this point, he's got his head out the other side.
Right.
And he's using his feet to push off the other door they got closed.
Right.
And is he using force at both those times?
Yes, sir.
Also, did you put him in the feet portion of the back seat?
No, whenever he stiffened up and like tried to flatten himself out, that's when he slid off the seat and went up towards the floorboard. And I'm using my upper body strength to hold his upper body to try and lift him up, but he's not helping me get him on the seat because he still has his legs straight out like this,
Is he preventing you from
lifting him
lifting
up
him up?
to put him on the seat. Yeah.
Okay, and it's obstructing you and preventing you.
Yes.
Now, I want to skip ahead to the time when you actually get him in the vehicle and you transport him.
Nigga. Help, doing that, nigga. Huh? Now, I'm counting now. I'm counting now. Yeah, I'm super counting now, nigga. What's the matter? What's the matter with me? Let me remember. Hello, world. Come here. Come here. Nigga. Yeah. Yeah. Get away. Yeah. Get away. It's the best story I ever seen. My favorite forever. For hey, OG, gangster, woo, nigga. Well, I think it's top call. Yeah, with that good. Well, they could do all this, that time. Well, come on, they get me with. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm yeah, I'm big. Nigga, you wanna touch it, you wanna squeeze it, you just always one time When you will do it one time, guess what? Huh? With the, oh, five, okay, the goal for my life is fucked up now. Yeah, nigga, a nigga, a big nigga. I'm telling you, look at it now. Yeah, pretty much. See? Hell, nigga. Nah. Big dick. A big dick. Yeah. You ah.
Now I'm not gonna play it more than it. Where you also, did it continue like that until you got into the jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the jury would like to review, the full video, your honor, and evidence. But I had two questions for you really quick.
Yes.
Now, did he intentionally keep you from transporting him to jail?
Yes,
Did he use force when he did it?
yes,
Okay, and now, through your training experience, did you believe that he was intoxicated?
yes,
Now, is intoxication an offense to resisting arrest or transport?
No.
Voluntary intoxication, meaning a person can't get so drunk that they somehow get away with whatever they do because, oh, I don't remember, I was too drunk.
right.
Possibly.
Oh, Ms. West, before you proceed, let's take a,
May I approach this?
yes,
I'm good.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, he had a doctor's appointment that we were worried about.
I can ride.
okay, let's take a 5-minute recess. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, of the jury, gonna take a 5-minute recess. Please follow the bailiff into the hall. Everyone, please stand while the jury exits the courtroom. Okay, the court will be in recess. Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. The court is in session in 2 cases. First case is cause number M332300 and cause number 23CCCR0069. Both cases are styled the state of Texas versus Renee Antonio Elias. Mr. Elias, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Elias, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Elias, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Elias?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Honor?
I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. Now, your full name is Renee Antonio Elias.
Yes,
Is that correct? Mr. Elias, your attorney of record is attorney Doug Murphy. However, Mr. Murphy is not here today, but standing in for Mr. Murphy is attorney Chris McKinney. Does attorney McKinney have your permission to stand in for attorney Doug Murphy?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. McKinney, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Judge. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. And state is represented in this case by attorney Lamar Johnson. Attorney Johnson, how are you doing?
I'm well, Your Honor.
That's good. Now, Mr. Elias, in cause number 23CCCR0069, I have before me an information. In this information, it alleges that you, Renee Antonio Elias, on or about October 23rd of 2021, the Class B misdemeanor offense of reckless driving. Mr. Elias, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Elias, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, and no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty because you're guilty?
Yes, sir.
Need to make a correction on this information. Okay, Mr. Elias, I made a correction on this misdemeanor plea admonishment under the category that's titled punishment range. This is a Class B misdemeanor. However, for reckless driving, the punishment range for this Class B is confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 30 days, a fine not to exceed $200, or you could be given both such fine and confinement. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Elias, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Elias, on page 2 of this same document, there are a set of initials on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Mr. Elias, did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
On page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is this your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
On the next document is titled trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal. You recognize this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes,
There are
Your
2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
That discovery certification. Mr. Elias, I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your signature on the line that is titled Defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Elias, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I just mentioned to you, did your attorney, Attorney McKinney, go over these documents with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hey, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment state. Would you like to offer State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, Your Honor. State officer, state sworn.
Any objections?
No objection, Judge.
No objection. State's Exhibit Number 1 will be admitted into evidence. Mr. McKinney, you've advised and counseled Mr. Elias. Is there any evidence that he's currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
It's competent, Judge.
Mr. Elias, your attorney, Mr. McKinney, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
And your attorney of record, Mr. Doug Murphy, or Attorney Doug Murphy, has also advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he provided fully effective and competent legal representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Elias, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargaining agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
Your Honor, in exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty in this case, the state is recommending that the court defer adjudicating guilt at this time, Your Honor, and instead place defendant on community supervision for a period of 1 year, require defendant to pay a $200 fine, to complete 50 hours of community service. And we're asking that the terms and conditions of probation include a DWI education course,
Okay,
interlock device, Your Honor, and a drug and alcohol analysis. Assessment. Assessment.
you got a DWI. Now repeat that again.
It's a DWI education course, Your Honor, drug and alcohol assessment and interlock device. And the probation, the deferred adjudication, community supervision for a year with a $200 fine and 50 hours of community service.
Yeah. It's 0.
Thank you, Judge.
Oh. My supervisor.
Jefferson County Court, Law number 2 is back in session. Court is in session and cause number 23CCCR 0069. Case of Style State of Texas versus Renee Antonio Elias. Renee Antonio Elias was previously sworn in. Mr. Elias acknowledged that his signatures and initials on State's Exhibit 1. He also acknowledged that his signature was on trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal and the discovery certification. Mr. Elias entered a plea of guilty to the charge of reckless driving. Mr. Elias is represented in this case by attorney Chris McKinney. Attorney McKinney is standing in for attorney Doug Murphy. And Mr. McKinney, you did waive a record in this case, is that correct?
That's correct, Judge.
Mr. Johnson, would you please, well, before we do that, Mr. Murphy stated that there was, well, not Mr. Murphy, Mr. McKinney stated that there was no evidence that Mr. Elias is incompetent to stand trial, and Mr. Elias stated that he was satisfied with the services of both Attorney Murphy and Attorney McKinney. The court found that evidence sufficient to find Mr. Elias guilty for the charge of reckless driving. The court found that he was mentally competent to stand trial. The court found that his plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And the court also found that the evidence was sufficient to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, would you please repeat the state's offer in this case?
Sure thing, Your Honor. In exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty in this case, the state is recommending that the court defer adjudicating guilt at this time and instead place defendant on community supervision for 1 year, Your Honor. Require defendant to pay a $200 fine and to complete 50 hours of community service. And we're asking that the terms and conditions of the probation include a DWI education course for a drug and alcohol assessment and an interlock device.
Okay. Mr. Elias, the state is offering that you serve 1 year deferred adjudicated probation. During this 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $200 plus court costs. The court cost in this case is $330. You'll also be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month, a urinalysis fee of $15 each month, and you'll also be required to pay the restitution fee. The total amount that you will require to pay each month in monthly installments is $131. Mr. Elias, would you be able to pay the $131 each month?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Elias, as part of this probation, you also be required, is he required to perform any community service? Yes.
50 hours, Your Honor.
Okay. You'll be required to perform 50 hours of community service. You'll be required to attend and complete a DWI education class, have a drug and alcohol assessment, and you'll be required to install an interlock device on any vehicle that you own or operate. Mr. Elias, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Elias, I'll follow the bargaining agreement that you've entered into with the state. I will first defer finding of guilt and place you on deferred probation. Now, Mr. Elias, if you successfully complete the deferred probationary period, this case will be dismissed. It would not result in a conviction on your record, and you may qualify for non-disclosures. And you could talk to your attorney, Mr. McKinney, about the non-disclosure, because I'm quite sure he's competent in those matters. Now, in cause number M332300, I have before me a motion to dismiss that case. Is that correct, State?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Mr. Elias, this companion case will be dismissed. The court is signing it right now. Please stand on the X next to your attorney and follow the directions. Do you need any?
I can get a thumbprint, but I still need to make modifications to the. Okay, can I get
Thank you so much.
Can I get your right thumbprint 3 times on that blank space on the paper?
And, oh, make sure, before you leave, check with, Denise about the TRN.
Okay,
Yeah, just hold on a minute.
so you just want to make sure that the TRN gets transferred from the old case to this case?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
see if that does. If
Well, I'm gonna need to finish typing this first. You know,
we could have, order. Have, Trina, I'll have Trina call downstairs. Have Trina to call downstairs on, to Denise and ask if the TRN number, ask Denise, will the TRN number transfer from Mr. Elias DWI case to this new case that was just filed? Right,
I can transfer in just a second. I just need to finish typing this.
okay. Okay, no problem. Everyone may be seated. Just hold on a minute. Let the record reflect that the court is back in session and calls number M329-248, case of South State of Texas versus Herbert Glenn Harrison Jr. Let the record reflect that Mr. Harrison is present in court with his attorney, Attorney John West. Let the record also reflect that the state is present with Assistant District Attorneys Kobe Hoffmeyer and Attorney Lamar Johnson. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present and seated in the courtroom. And Mr. West, the witness is yours. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Officer Williams. Couple quick questions. We all saw the video. The rest went okay, right?
Yes,
Okay, you had no problems with taking him into custody at that point, right? I mean, you were able to handcuff him and everything. Everything went fine, right?
yes,
And you searched, did a pat down search of, and that went fine too as well, okay? The only issue we really have is this transportation, getting him in the car, correct?
right,
All right, and he wasn't complying with you, was he? He was clearly intoxicated.
yes,
Okay, I think we all can see that on the video that, and that's why you arrested him.
yes,
And he was being very difficult, wasn't he?
yes,
All right, did he ever strike you?
no,
Did he ever kick you? He was just had his foot out the door and wouldn't let you shut the door, right?
he pushed the door. with
That's what I'm saying,
Yes,
the door out the door, and you were trying to shut the door, but his foot and leg were keeping you from doing that.
yes,
Okay, and his leg was, I guess, locked up or stiff or however you want to describe it. Okay, and you eventually had to get the wrap device, which is the thing we saw, which is
Right.
kind of what it sounds like, just wraps them up, right? Kind of
yes,
burritos them, right?
yes,
And then you were able to put them in the car like that.
right.
That's what it was.
Okay, Mr. Hoffmeyer.
Thank you. Now, council asked some questions that, with the issue of the transport, the arrest. I mean, he wasn't, he wouldn't comply with getting in your vehicle. Is that right?
Right.
And you said even, let me ask, was he used force with his legs, but he also used force with his legs to his head, and he wouldn't straighten up for you to put him in that way too, right?
Right.
Now, he didn't strike you or hit you. Okay. Now, if he had, would that be another charge?
Yes,
Or what charge would that be?
assault on peace officer.
And that's a felony, right? Yeah. So, but he did push with his leg, used force.
To
Okay.
prevent me from closing the door.
Yeah, is it intentional when he did that?
Yes,
Okay. Now, did you, Mr. Harrison, did he would have not known that you were a peace officer at that time? Meaning like, was it clear to him that you were an officer?
yes, sir. He called me officer.
He said officer, even on video, right? Officer this and officer Salcena. So he knew you were an officer, you were wearing a uniform.
Yeah, and he said Officer Williams.
Okay. Now, and I want to go quickly over so he was arrested for public intoxication,
Yes,
right? Now, what does a public intoxication require?
when you're intoxicated in public and you pose a risk to yourself and possibly others.
Now, did you make that determination?
Sir,
You make that determination on Mr. Harrison on February 14th.
yes,
Why? Why would you think he was a danger to himself or to others?
but without a responsible party to be released to and in normal use of his faculties, he could possibly, because MLK, 2 o'clock at night, clubs closing, still busy traffic at 2 a.m. Wander off into the street, possibly drive his vehicle off into the street, or even into a gas pump. You never know, because he wasn't in his right mind at that point.
And for all we know, he was driving off when you got there, right?
Possible.
And if you were released, aren't you putting somebody that, reasonable, that they might get back in the car and try to drive something?
Yes,
And then what is a vehicle on the road possibly?
weapon.
Leave a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Good. That's a witness.
Nothing further on it.
Okay,
We as if officer waiting to be released, judge has got an option.
okay.
Yes.
I mean, I have a cell phone, I can get him to be called.
We need him, we'll go track him down, Your Honor.
Okay, Officer Williams, you are released. With the whole part, you can call your next witness.
State called Eric Salceda.
Officer Salcedo, will you please come forward? Would you please raise your right hand? Officer Salcedo, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You may put your hand down and take this. Please have a seat in the witness stand and adjust your seat and microphone.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Counsel. Please state your name for the record, please.
Erica Saucy.
You can pull that mic in. Okay. Now, Officer Salceda, are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas?
Sure.
And how long have you been certified?
That's August of 2020.
Okay, so
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay, now where did, in order to become a certified peace officer in the state of Texas, what did you have to do?
I do go through academy.
Okay, what academy did you?
University of Houston downtown.
Okay, and they have an academy there, correct? And you went through that, and in order to obtain that certification, you had to complete the academy, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you keep up your certification by yearly or by, 2 years, you got testing, and that's correct, right? To keep your certification?
To get,
Okay, and continuing education as well along with that, is that right? CLE, or not what we would call CLE, but your officer training to keep your certification, is that right?
to keep employment, and you can keep taking equal class.
CECO class, that's the word. Now, were you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas working with Beaumont PD on February 14th, 2021?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you currently work at Beaumont PD, but you were working back then. What are your duties now with Beaumont PD? What are you assigned to?
I'm a patrol officer, and so I respond to calls for service. I can make traffic stops. I can make pedestrian stops. I'm on the streets to respond to calls.
Good. Now, as a patrol officer, you work shift, meaning like a certain, what your fourth shift is like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're staggered. Is that right? Now, what do you currently do?
I work what's called first watch, also known as midnights.
Good.
It's 9 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Good. Well, back in February 14th, 2021, were you working in the same first watch night? The midnights?
Yes,
Okay. What area were you working?
we call it the south end.
Good. All right. And now was an officer Roger Williams working with you then? On that ship. Were you familiar with Roger Williams back in February 2021?
A little bit. I had just got released from training,
Okay.
so
Now, did you tell the jury like you have to go through a probationary period, right, with a certified officer, right? Complete that, and then you're out on your own in patrol, right? Okay, and you did that already. Okay. Now, how long had you been a certified peace officer back in February 2021?
about 7.
Okay, so not that much, but you had been working, correct? Okay. Now, do you remember? And I know it's been a long time, but were you working the same shift as Officer Williams, right?
Yes.
And you were both working in the same area
Yes.
of town, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you remember around little after 2 a.m. on February 14th, 2021, you received a dispatch?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the nature of the dispatch and where was it to?
The trespassing at 501 Washington.
Okay, 501 Washington is Washington Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay, and where's that located?
It's Washington and NLK.
In Beaumont?
Yes.
Beaumont, Texas.
Yes.
And Beaumont, Texas, is located in Jefferson County, Texas. So where were you, if you can remember, where were you at when you received the dispatch?
That I know.
Do you remember if it took a long time for you to get there? 501 Washington?
don't remember exactly.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't have been 30 minutes or anything, right? When you arrived, was Officer Williams on the scene? Okay. But were you there pretty much right when he got there, or a little after?
I believe so. It's pretty-
Okay, you observed his vehicle. Okay, what was the dispatch disturbance? Did you get a description?
Trespassing of a black male, we wearing all black. He was supposed to be standing near pump 6 near his white.
Okay.
White car.
Now, when you got there, what did you, when you arrived at this, where is that? Where, is it a gas station?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you observe when you arrived?
The white car was parked closer to the parking spaces. Not at.
Was that a white Camry you're talking about? Okay, now, officer, I'm gonna approach him, approach him.
Yes, you may.
I'll show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 7. Okay, I'm gonna let you take a look at that. Do you recognize this? The zip drive? Yes, as in your in-car and your body cam video. Okay. Now, you reviewed this before trial here today. Right? You watched both the in-car and in your body cam video. Now, are you wearing your body cam on you today here in Florida?
Yes.
Is that the same body cam or similar body cam that you used at the time on February 14, 2021? And if you could stand up to the jury and show where it is. Is that okay, in the middle, the square?
That's where I wear it now.
Okay,
At the time, I was trying different positions, trying to figure out what was.
okay. Would you tell us how your camera works in regards to your in-car camera and your body cam? Are they synced?
Yes.
Okay, and were you trained on those? Okay, so you're trained to make sure it operates correctly and that it takes everything that you see as an officer, meaning through the car, the 3 views on the car, as well as a body camera. Is that right? Now, was it functioning properly on February 14th, 2021? And did you reduce that to this particular flip drive or thumb drive that has both those videos on? Well, when I say your body camera and then your in-car, which is 3 views. Is that correct? And in-car, yes, ma'am. 3 views on your in-car video. Meaning the front, the back, and other and behind. Okay, the rear. Okay. Now, was this, you've reviewed this, was it altered in any way, or is it the same or in fairly and accurately represent what you observed that night and what you did that night?
Yes.
And nobody changed it in any way, it's not any different. It hadn't been altered. And you know the voices speaking on it. All right. At this time, Your Honor, I offer the State's Exhibit number 7. Been here to oppose the counsel, barring any objection. That has to be at the end for all purposes.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit number 7 is admitted.
Okay. I'm gonna enter that, officer. Now, have you reviewed Officer Williams' body cam prior to trial? You
Yes.
watched that too, right? And have the similar, like both of y'all were working together on this particular night, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the things that were on his body camera are on yours because you're standing next to him most of the time or near him. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So, I mean, a lot of the same things are on your camera, right? But did you transport an individual that night from 501 Washington? Okay, now, here's what I want to ask about. So, at the point you got to 501 Washington, what did Officer Williams and you do to when you observed the suspect or someone that matched the description? What did you see?
We approached the vehicle and asked him to exit it.
Yeah.
To prevent him running away or making any kind of movements that put himself in danger or us or other people.
Why were you concerned about that?
He was still in the vehicle.
Okay. Did you get him? Did he comply immediately?
He hesitated.
Good. You finally get him to come out of the car. Okay. Now, what does your protocol do for that at that point?
What do officers do after we get him out?
Yes, ma'am.
We usually will ask them to walk to the front of the vehicle, have the pat down of their persons to make sure there's weapons or anything like that on him. And due to the nature of this call, we place him into handcuffs.
Now, at this particular point was, now, first of all, do you see that individual that you placed, that Officer Williams placed in handcuffs? Do you see him here in the courtroom?
Yes,
Would you identify him? Well, first of all, did you know his name or did you find it out later? Okay, what was that name? Okay, you see Herbert Harrison here in the courtroom today.
yes.
Would you please point him out and describe an article of clothing for?
Gentleman wearing a blue shirt.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness identified the defendant Herbert Harrison.
The record will so reflect.
Once Mr. Harrison was placed in handcuffs, was he arrested or were you detained? At that point. If Officer Williams said he was detained, but then he ultimately decided to arrest him for public intoxication, is that what you remember?
Yes.
Okay, now, were you the secondary officer? Is that fair to say? Meaning that he was the first on the scene. You have a protocol or what you follow as a secondary officer. Okay, and is that what you did on that night?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what your duties are as a secondary officer.
As a secondary or a backup officer, you show up, you provide support. Primary officer, he makes the decisions and you're there to support and help out basically if assistance is needed.
Okay, now, did you observe anything about Mr. Harrison, who you identified, that you remember about what you observed about him immediately, like dealing with him and walking next to you?
He's smelled the beverage. He's having some trouble listening to commands. His emotions were fluctuating.
Did he seem like he was understanding what y'all were trying to ask him?
Yes.
Would he not listen? Is that fair to say? Okay. Now, at some point, Officer Williams decided that they would place him under arrest for public intoxication, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, now, at that point, could Officer Williams get Mr. Harrison into his vehicle?
he sat down, but he wouldn't let us close the door.
Okay, now tell the jury how he kept y'all from closing the door of the officer's unit.
He placed his leg outside the door, so every time we tried to close the door would shut.
Okay, now, did he use force from what you observed by keeping the door, pushing against the officer or you or the door to keep it from closing that door?
Yes.
Okay, did he do that once or did he do it multiple times? Now, how long did it, from the point of him placing his leg out, did y'all try multiple times to get him into the car?
Yes,
Okay, were you successful? Did he use force against you or Officer Williams?
he used physical force.
Physical force did not let you put him in the car. Now, why is it important? Tell the jury why it's important that he's in a vehicle before he's transported, meaning like the door's not open. Okay, what's the importance of that?
His safety for one, without being able to close the door, there's a chance he could run. Washington's a pretty busy street, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning. He needs to be seatbelted. He doesn't allow us to do that. That's a safety issue. He can be transported without a seatbelt.
Can y'all get in the car and drive? In the way the defendant was refusing to comply with you, is that fair to say? So you can't just take off because, look, he's not gonna put his leg in it.
Right.
Okay, so what do y'all do? What's the protocol to do when somebody refuses to comply?
Someone refuses to comply, and the fact that he used physical force to prevent us from closing the door. I called for what's called a wrap device. It's a restraining device. It basically locks their legs together and it creates a different type of a harness essentially to be able to secure that person.
Okay, now, is the wrap device something you do all the time for all arrests?
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say it's used for, look, it's the last thing we can do? Okay, so y'all don't do it automatically, like, this, you tried everything you can and you cannot get a person. Was that the case with Mr. Harrison?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and were you trained on the rap?
Yes, sir.
So both you and Mr. Williams were trained on it, is that right? Now, did it take, was it there immediately or did it take some time to get it out there?
Wait for it.
Right. Now, during that time, did y'all try again to get Mr. Williams, excuse me, Mr. Harrison, to get in the back seat so that he could be safely transported?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
I think somebody was on the opposite door and both doors open and trying to get the leg in, or maybe one person trying to pull him across so we can get that leg in. And then we were able to finally close one door, but then he extended his body out. So almost like his head was out the other door. So you can't close the door on his head, of course. So it was a lot of back and forth, just trying to have him sit upright.
Did he use force against you and Officer Williams to keep you from closing the doors? Now, just to be clear, closing the doors enables you to transport. If he won't let you close the doors, you can't go anywhere. Is that right?
Yes.
So is that your understanding that that's a resisting arrest, search, and transfer? Okay. So did that only happen one time, or were there multiple times that Mr. Harrison resisted y'all trying to at least deflect, try to keep it from happening or prevent it? Multiple times. His leg, also his head, right?
Yes.
Like, did he use force against you?
Physical force to prevent me from either put his head in the car or like.
Now, did you do, once you place him under wrap? Okay, now, all of it, about how long did all this take?
Than it should have, but I don't know the exact time.
Okay, when you say longer than it should have, do arrests generally, in your experience, take that long? So is it fair to say that was pretty uncooperative? Okay, now, what did you do once y'all got Mr. Harrison in the wrap? To protect him from himself and others. And then Officer Williams took him to the Jefferson County Correctional Facility, right? Okay, what did you do?
I remained on scene. I waited for the tow truck. I completed a tow sheet inventory of the vehicle and waited for the tow truck to sign the sheet.
Did you do anything else with this? Other than download your video and all that? Right. Thank you, ma'am. I'll pass it.
Mr. West,
Good question, John.
may this witness be excused?
Yes, please. I can be excused.
Okay, officer, you excused.
Yeah, it's not a state arrest.
Defense.
We rest, John.
Okay. Okay, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, both the state and the defense has rested. The court has to draft a charge. The charge is the instrument that has the law in it that we will give to the jurors. And so. Okay. What we're gonna do, just we're gonna have vote. Well, we'll have you to follow the bailiff into the hallway. At this time, will everyone please stand while the jury exit the courtroom? Court will be in recess.